Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop, bringing you another show today. Got a lot of stuff to get into, man. Like I always say, there's a lot going on this offseason with Ohio State. Um, I do want to start by saying I apologize for the lack of content. I know that I've been trying to go daily, but haven't been able to go live for probably almost like a week now, man. My kids have been sick. They've been home from school. My wife's been sick. You know, that's how it works, but it's all right. We're gonna get back to it, man. We'll get caught up because there's a lot to get caught up on. I kind of went down yesterday, and I hope I didn't miss anything, but I went through yesterday and I made kind of like a timeline of what's happened at Ohio State since I guess since the offseason, since after the Missouri game. So I want to kind of go down that, and then I want to talk about a couple other topics here today. Let's start with some stuff that's not necessarily Ohio State related, but kind of is. So Jeff Halfley at Bowling Green, Bowling Green's head coach, looks like he's out at Bowling Green, and he's going to be the defensive coordinator for the Packers. There's kind of some stuff to unpack with this though, because Jeff Halfley, a guy who Ryan Day hired as his defensive coordinator, kind of was his first hire when he came to Ohio State, and the defense went from being one of the worst in 2018 before Ryan Day took over to one of the best defenses in college football. Now, obviously, there was some big time players there. You had Chase Young, Jeff Okuda, guys like that, but it's still Jeff Halfley kind of put it all together, and then he was only here for 1 year, and then he left. Now, a lot of Ohio State fans have talked about wanting Jeff Halfley. He's getting back into being a defensive coordinator. Some of the things that he had to say were interesting, though. Jeff Halfley said basically something along the lines of being a college football coach now is kind of like not worth it. And he's saying like you have to recruit your own roster. You have to constantly be trying to fundraise. And Jeff Halfley was a guy who came from the NFL, not really a guy who you expect to want to do stuff like that anyway. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. Another thing that happens with that is that the transfer portal opens up 30 days, right? This is how it works. If your head coach leaves, 30 days, anybody on your team is allowed to hit the transfer portal. And it kind of basically makes recruiting, um, especially the transfer portal, it's an all time thing. And Ohio State, I think, is interested in at least one player from Bowling Green. There's a guy named Ozzy Trapilo. I think he's like a 6'8", 315, 320 pound offensive tackle. Started there for a few years and has 1 year of eligibility left. There is some smoke about Ohio State maybe being interested in him, but he's also not in the portal, I don't think. So we'll see how that works out. I mean, if Ohio State was going to make another move during, I guess, this time period before like the spring window, I think it would be something like that. Maybe bringing in an offensive lineman from one of these teams that have lost their coach. I don't know, man. It's interesting because at the way that college football is moving now, it seems like you're just going to be building your roster every single year. I know that recruiting is still going to remain important because if Ohio State didn't recruit as well as they do and have all these guys kind of in line and ready to step up and fill holes, then that would be a problem. But I think that we're just going to have to get used to every single year your roster is going to kind of flip. It's going to change. You're going to bring guys in. Since you're bringing guys in who are a little bit older, those guys are going to leave after 1 year. You got to either have somebody on your roster ready to replace them, or if not, then you need to go look in the portal. And honestly, I love that Ryan Day is just kind of moving different this offseason. I mean, Ryan Day went out and got the best players that he possibly could in the portal in this offseason. And I mean, you can't ask for any better than what he's done so far. I mean, there is still one big time move that needs to be made in the offseason, and that is Ohio State has one more coaching spot left. So you have 10 countable coaches um, for a college football team. Currently, Ohio State is at 9. Some of the coaching changes they've already made, which we'll talk about more here in a little bit. Obviously, they brought in Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator, Matt Guerrieri, I think is how you say his name, as the safeties coach. Perry Eliano was out, and Corey Dennis is out. So I don't know, man. They got to fill this last spot, and I honestly don't know what they should do with it. Like, there's some smoke going around right now around, I guess, like the Twitter world, that they may potentially be looking to get a special teams coordinator. That seems to be like an unpopular opinion with the fan, or an unpopular option with the fan base, though. It seems like we don't really want a special teams coordinator, because I feel like you should be able to have 10 accountable coaches that are position coaches or coordinators, and then either someone within, like, that's not accountable coach, or those accountable coaches combining should be able to manage your special teams and make them be as good as you need them to be, without having to actually have someone in that spot who's really only doing that. So I don't know, man. Like, to me, it's, do I want to see them hire a special teams coordinator? Probably not. Do I want to make sure that Ohio State's special teams is not losing them games like it has been the last 3 or 4 years? Absolutely. It has to happen. Like, we can't have the only impact the special teams makes on a game being a negative impact every single time that Ohio State has a big game. I mean, if you look back through the last 2 or 3 seasons, that's how it's been. There's not been any positive impact on the special teams. Like, okay, you punted the ball and gave the other team like not great field position. Okay, cool. Like, that's fine. But like, you do that once or twice, and then you cause a turnover, or like, the special teams has been just out of whack altogether. We're missing field goals, which I know, there's not you're not going to bring in a special teams coordinator that's going to be able to teach someone how to kick field goals, probably. But at the same time, I think it's just what you're allowing, right? If you're Ryan Day, if you're Ohio State, you're allowing that unit to be mediocre, and for it to be okay, and that's what it has been the last few years. And I mean, I don't know. Like I said, you can think back to super key moments in big games, like the Georgia game in 22, the Michigan game in 22, the Michigan game last year, or 23. I mean, and I mean, all of those games, there was special teams blunders that costed Ohio State big time. So, and I mean, even the Penn State game this past year, our special teams unit had a turnover. They put, I don't know if you call it a turnover, but I mean, yeah, it was a turnover. The other team punted the ball, bounced off of one of our guys, and Penn State got the ball back. So yeah, that you count that as a turnover. It's just like, that type of stuff can't happen, man. We got to get it fixed. I don't know. I hope that they don't hire a special teams coordinator, because I think we have guys in in the building that can fix these issues, and it's just up to Ryan Day to stress and emphasize that we're not allowing this unit to be mediocre. I mean, another person that is being talked about for that last spot is James Laurinaitis. Obviously they brought him in last year as like a GA, and it seems like the recruits love what James has to say. I mean, obviously you would expect them to, right? I mean, James Laurinaitis was a All-American at Ohio State, I believe. Long time NFL career. I led his team in tackles in the NFL. Like, I mean, just an overall dude. And I would like to see them hire James Laurinaitis. I wouldn't hate that hire. I just need to see the linebackers not be a liability. That's really more of um, the thing that I'm most concerned about, right? Because if you're going to bring in James Laurinaitis, there has to be some impact on the linebacker unit in 2024. We need to see them get better right away. I don't need to see another year of the linebackers kind of costing Ohio State big games, and they did that in the past. Like I said, I mean, I hate to go back to the same games, but they don't lose many. So going back to 2022 Georgia, and then Michigan in 2023, the linebackers were a big liability in those games. And coming into 2023, I feel like the linebackers, I want to say they regressed in terms of like their image, kind of what we look at them as. I don't think that Tommy or Steele regressed as players. I think that they were both very similar to what they were in, honestly, 22 and 21, even, for that matter. But I think they were asked to do a little bit different things, and it was not things that fit their skill set, because neither one of them are just great athletes. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Hopefully, they make a good hire. I mean, if it's with the way that Ryan Day is moving this offseason, it kind of gives me confidence that he's going to do something that will benefit the team overall with this last coaching position. And I mean, there was some talk originally too that maybe Bill O'Brien coming in as the offensive coordinator would want to bring in one of his guys, someone that is able that he relates with, that he knows is a good coach. That's still an option too. I mean, even then, maybe that will be a special teams coordinator that he brings in that also helps with whatever unit, linebackers, whatever it is. I don't know. It's interesting because usually this late in the process, you don't have like a spot open on your staff that's not filled, especially if you didn't have like a head coach turnover or something like that. Because obviously, other teams like Michigan, not all of their spots are filled, but you know, you know what Jim Harbaugh did to them. He kind of nuked the program over there. So that's a topic for another day. We're going to talk about for sure. So let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know, who do you think should be uh, the last coaching or coach hired on the staff? Like, do you think, even if you don't want to say who, if you don't know names, because I honestly don't know all the names that they're looking at, but what position coach do you think should be hired? What position? That's what I'm asking. Let me know. So let's move on from that. I do want to talk a little bit about the last month. So this is like the main topic of the show. I went through and made a timeline, and you guys could let me know in the chat or in the comments if I miss anything, because I was going through this. It was kind of late at night. I think I got everything that happened, but I'm sure that I missed something. It's almost a guarantee. But if I did, and if it whatever, if I did, then give me a break. It is what it is. But moving on. So looking back at here, one thing I didn't add on here was, when was the Cotton Bowl? Let me look that up really quick, and then we'll. All right, give me 1 second here, guys. Okay, so December 29th, Ohio State played the Cotton Bowl. Obviously, we all know how that went. Ohio State lost to Missouri 14-3. Terrible offensive performance. Program's falling apart. Nothing's ever going to get better. Ryan Day should be fired. That's where we were at, right? Then December 31st, we had the commitment from uh, Ohio University tight end Will Kazmarek. This didn't move the needle for anybody. Obviously, this is a MAC school, a tight end. Okay, cool. He may be a contributor. That's fine. Doesn't move the needle for anybody, right? And then moving on from that, on January 4th, Ohio State gets a commitment from Will Howard, the quarterback transfer from Kansas State. That, I mean, honestly, he just met with the media, and I like the guy, right? I like what he brings in terms of his mentality, his experience. And I think that he has the ability to be a really good quarterback at Ohio State. I just think that they're going to be asking him to do a lot of things that he's never done in college, which is fine, right? Because just because he hasn't done them doesn't mean that he can't. But we'll see. I'm going to talk a little bit later about how I think the quarterback competition is going to work at Ohio State. So I'm going to shelf that one for now. But anyway, January 4th, Ohio State gets a commitment from Will Howard. So we're starting to get a little bit of momentum, right? It's not that, I don't think that really moved the needle for anybody, and got them to the point where they're like, oh, we're back. Everything's going to be okay. That's not how it happened, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on from that, then on January 6th, Ohio State starts to pick up momentum right here, I think. And a lot of people did a lot of trash talking about the pickup of Seth McLaughlin, the center from Alabama, because obviously the last thing that we've seen from him was the performance against Michigan, where he had some snap issues. But if you're actually someone who is willing to take a moment and just go back and look at what he's done, that was a phenomenal get for Ohio State. So January 6th, they get a commitment from Seth McLaughlin. And then another commitment, which is a recruit, so not someone who's really going to have an impact in 24, but a big-time recruit in terms of momentum for the 25 class. Five-star cornerback Devin Sanchez commits to Ohio State. So listen, go look up Devin Sanchez and his tape and what he's capable of. That kid is a beast, man. I mean, Tim Walton is just cooking in hot grease right now. I love everything he's doing, and you'll see the trend here that kind of Tim Walton is becoming a big problem for teams with if they're going to be competing with Ohio State for a recruit. So anyway, look out for Devin Sanchez in the 25 class. Like I said, big things coming for that kid in the future. And you'll see, if you're on Twitter, you'll see his family. His mom and his dad are on Twitter all the time trying to recruit. They're good people. Hop on there and chop it up with them if you see them on there. So, all right. And then now things take another bit of kind of a dark turn, right? Ohio State, or not, sorry, not Ohio State. Things take a dark turn if you're an Ohio State fan, because now 2 days after Devin Sanchez commits, Michigan plays against Washington, wins their bogus ass national championship that they cheated to get. Again, another topic for another day, but I do want to do a little bit of a deep dive into that on another show. I mean, kind of what the actual impacts were of the whole Connor Stallions cheating fiasco, and what it led to. So, anyway, moving on. January 8th, Michigan wins the national championship. And that was a bad night until it was no longer a bad night, because as soon as Michigan won, Ohio State fans hopped on Twitter to kind of take their lashings from their Michigan buddies. Boom, Quinshon Judkins commits to Ohio State. If you don't know who Quinshon Judkins is, then you're not you're not a college football fan. You may be an Ohio State fan, and that's fine, but everybody knows Quinshon Judkins is one of the best running backs in college football. Nasty, nasty, nasty runner. And I actually got a chance to watch some all 22 film of him. If you guys haven't checked it out, I'm going to plug my guys here. Menace to Sports. Check out their platform. They have a Patreon platform. They have a YouTube platform. But on Patreon, they do like film breakdowns. And they broke down Quinshon Judkins. They broke down Quinshon Judkins all 22 film. And that kid is a damn football player. To me, like, if you like Chip Trayanum and what he brought to the team last year, you're going to love Quinshon, because, I mean, he's just a beast. He's a hard runner, tackle breaker. And honestly, I think that what Ohio State's going to get out of him is probably going to be even better than what Ole Miss did. And the reason I say that is because just look at the natural progression of a running back in college football typically. You get kid bursts onto the scene as a true freshman, super talented, makes plays. You get sophomore slumps a lot of the times. And I mean, Quinshon Judkins had over 1,000 yards last season. So I'm, calling it a sophomore slump is a stretch on my part. You get sophomore slumps though, and then those kids get to their NFL year, their third year, and they're like, all right, it's time to turn it up. I'm going to up my training. I'm going to up my focus. I'm going to up my preparation. I think that Ohio State's going to could possibly have the best two running backs in college football next year. That's where I'm at with it. And he's another guy who just met with the media recently, and Seth McLaughlin did too. I forgot to talk about that. They asked him a lot about the snapping issues, and he said, "Look, man, like sometimes you go through issues, you just got to get through it. Like he's like that doesn't define me as a player, but I have to fix it." And I think that he will. But anyway, getting back to Judkins. So it seemed like everybody was under the impression that Quinshon and TreVeyon Henderson kind of like agreed to play together. And I don't think that that's what happened. I don't think that it's going to be a problem. And I don't think it was ever actually going to be a problem. But Quinshon kind of said, I was coming here no matter what. Like, I made my decision before TreVeyon Henderson decided that he was staying. So, I don't know. I like that kid. I like what he has to say. Ole Miss fans are trying to paint him out as some big, bad, shitty player. Or not shitty player, but shitty person. Don't believe it. That's not who he is. He's a good kid, football player, and he's going to be a great Buckeye. Anyway, so we got some momentum going, right? We're starting to catch fire. Now, I didn't go through and look through the dates on this, so some of these dates might have happened in the time frame that I've already went through. But that was after this is when Ohio State's kind of flood of guys announcing that they were returning, right? And big time names. I mean, I think I have, I have 8 guys listed here. I would say at the very minimum, 7 of them would have been drafted if they went to the NFL. And at least I would say 4, maybe 5 of these guys would have been first 3-round picks. So these are NFL players that Ohio State's bringing back. That's why Ohio State's kind of natty or bust. It's not because of the transfer portal additions. It's because of the guys that came back. We've kind of felt that like natty or bust thing before some of the other moves that were made, which we'll get into in a minute. But just looking down the list, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, Latham Ransom, Travion Henderson, Donovan Jackson, Emeka Egbuka, all announced that they're coming back. And I might have missed somebody in there, but those are all NFL players, man. Every single one of them is NFL players. If you're an Ohio State fan and you're not excited about those guys coming back, it doesn't make sense to me, honestly. Even if there's like a kid in a position that you're looking to play or that you can't wait to see play, like a perfect example of this would be Jermaine Matthews, right? I am super excited about that kid. I think he's going to end up being a first round pick. I think that the way that he moves, the way that he looks like an NFL player already, and he was a true freshman in 2023. But does that mean that I wanted Denzel Burke to go off to the NFL and then have Jermaine Matthews step in for him? No, man. I want Denzel Burke on my team. Denzel Burke brings attitude, So again, I don't want to look at any of these guys coming back as a negative because I think they're all going to be better players, and I think that we're going to end up with maybe 4 or 5 first round picks out of this class that are going to leave next year. So Ohio State better get a lot of their young guys reps this year because you're losing a ton next year. Anyway, moving on from that, like I said, just some of the things that happened. Then Ohio State started making some coaching staff changes. They hired Matt Guerrieri as the safeties coach. That one's kind of been, I don't know, a lot of people have a problem with that because, Perry Eliano did a good job of developing his guys. Not a great recruiter, but I don't think Matt Guerrieri is ever going to be a great recruiter either. To me, this one seems like, okay, Jim Knowles, Ryan Day telling, okay, Jim Knowles, you delivered the defense that you told me you could deliver with how good the defense was last year. And Jim Knowles is like, look, this is how my defense takes the next step. I need to get my guy in here as the safeties coach so I can do more with my safeties, especially if we're not going to be doing as much as I want to do with the defensive line, because I think that maybe Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson don't necessarily agree on using a jack position or not using a jack position. Hopefully we do next year, but this one just feels like a comfort hire for Knowles. Like, hey, get my guy in here so that everybody on my whole entire defense is doing what I expect them to do. I don't know. I don't know if I hate it or if I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see how it plays out, right? I mean, obviously Ohio State is going to have big time safeties in the room next year, which takes us to our next thing that happened kind of on the timeline. January 19th, Ohio State hires Bill O'Brien, and then on the same day, Ohio State gets a commitment from Caleb Downs. Now, I want to talk about Caleb Downs first because, I mean, that just if you're not excited about this kid was a freshman, like second team All American, whatever it was. Arguably the best player on the Alabama defense that was really good and was flying around making plays. Kind of a guy that Ohio State felt like they really missed out on in the recruiting trail the first time. But the GOAT retires and there's some fallback from that. So Nick Saban retires and Caleb Downs ends up at Ohio State. I mean, listen, Matt Guerrieri, if a lot of Michigan fans, they like to say born on third base. Matt Guerrieri might be the definition of a coach that's born on third base. He's coming into a room that has, fifth year Latham Ransom, who every time that he's been on the field and been healthy has been a really good player. And then you're just going to plug in Caleb Downs, the best safety in the country. Okay. I mean, listen, they better be good. That's all I have to say. They better be in the right spot. They better be making plays all game. And honestly, that's what I expect. I don't think that anything will change. Caleb Downs met with the media and he said, I expect this team and this defense to be better than it was last year. And I like that, man. That if you listen to that kid talk, if you guys haven't had a chance, go check it out on YouTube. Just look up Caleb Downs, Ohio State interview, whatever. I mean, I've never seen a person, I feel like we don't get kids like him here at Ohio State. I don't think that I've seen a person who just embodies, I'm a football player the way that Caleb Downs does. He just is like, one thing he did during his interview was he said Michigan. If you're an Ohio State fan, you know that Ohio State players, staff don't really say Michigan. They use Teton or the Team Up North. Caleb Downs said Michigan. I don't give a fuck that Caleb Downs said Michigan, to be honest. I think Caleb Downs is a different cat, and we got him for 2 more years. We need to get everything we can out of him for the next 2 more years because in 3 years he's going to be starting in the NFL on whatever the hell team that he goes to, and he's going to be probably one of the best safeties in the NFL by that point. So I don't know, man. I just think that that pickup cannot be talked about enough about how big of an impact it's going to have on this Ohio State defense. And I mean, you look, we're replacing Josh Proctor with Caleb Downs. Proctor just had his best year that he's ever had as a Buckeye, but I think that the jump from him to Caleb Downs is still a huge jump, and I think that uh, just the athleticism, the overall football acumen. I don't know. I love it, man. And listen, if you're someone who's not an Ohio State fan in here, maybe an Alabama fan, because a lot of Alabama fans have been kind of in their feelings about Caleb Downs, get over it. You're going to be all right. He said something about, they asked him about Nick Saban, and he used the word, like Nick Saban taught him about commitment, and people were freaking out about that. But he was just giving his praise to the GOAT, man. Nick Saban's the GOAT of our sport. I don't know if we'll see another coach as good as him in our lifetime or in my lifetime. But Caleb Downs, just all praise for him, and everything else that came out of Caleb Downs' mouth just says, "Look, I'm a damn football player, and this is what I was born to do." I don't know. Super excited about that. Anyway, the other move, Ohio State hires Bill O'Brien. This is one of the ones that's been like controversial, right? Are we excited about it? Are we not excited about it? To me, I'm super excited about it because I think that he's exactly what Ohio State needed. Is he the best offensive coordinator in college in the whole world? No, probably not, right? Is he exactly what Ohio State needed in terms of the right attitude, the right mentality, an adult in the room with a ton of experience? He is exactly what Ohio State needed, in my opinion, and exactly what Ryan Day needed, because I personally think that this different, call it different, Ryan Day that we're seeing in the offseason is a result of him stepping back away from the offense and being like, okay, look, I know that if this team is going to reach the potential that it has, I need to be the CEO. I need to go out here and fundraise. I need to go out here and recruit my ass off. And, that's one of the kind of jokes within my little Buckeye group chat that I have on Twitter is Ryan Day is everywhere right now. Every single day you're seeing him in a different state with a different recruit, smiling, throwing up the O for OHIO. I mean, this is what we need from him, man. Like, I don't know if the country is ready for what CEO Ryan Day can do with Ohio State. Now, I did make a joke last night, and I kind of feel like this. I feel like Ryan Day is in such a pivotal year in 24 that he's either about to become an Urban Meyer level coach, and he's going to go out and win a national championship and be savage and just, be really good in that CEO role, or he's going to have a ton of questions about him and he's going to end up being kind of in that mid-tier level coach. Because right now you see him near the top half of all of your top 10 coaches list. If Ryan Day doesn't win, at least against Michigan this year, and make some noise in the playoffs, he's probably going to start falling below a lot of those people and maybe into the second half of that list. So I don't know, man. We'll see how it plays out. Let me see. If you guys have any questions in the chat, let me know. I just wanted to kind of run through this timeline because it's honestly been just a crazy ass month, and I haven't been able to do any content really because, like I said in the beginning, my kids have been homesick, they had winter break a couple weeks ago. My wife's been sick, all this stuff going on, and I just couldn't wait to get back to doing some content, man. So I'm super excited about that. My guy Cam said the defense should be number one. I agree, dude. Listen, if we don't have the best defense in college football, then something's wrong, right? You got all NFL players basically at every single spot. I mean, if I'm thinking through the defense, right, and just the 11 players that should be on the field, and even maybe if you go into like the 12th and the 13th player on the that'll be on the field, I'm struggling to find one person that I think won't be an NFL player. Like, do I think maybe the weakest link on the defense will end up being Cody Simon? And if that's the case, I'm cool with it because I think Cody Simon was the best linebacker on the team last year. I think he was better than Tommy Eichenberg and better than Steel Chambers. And they were kind of moving him around and didn't let him play in the Michigan game. But I still think that he could end up being the I guess least likely to be an NFL player on this defense. So I don't know, man. You better be good. That's all I gotta say. You better be really good. Anyway, moving on from that, the last couple of things here that happened, just within like I said, the last this crazy month that we've been having. Ohio State then gets a commitment on January 21st from Julian Sayin, five-star quarterback who is part of the 24 class. So I'm looking at this one as a recruit, not necessarily a transfer. He commits to Alabama and actually was on campus at Alabama, but Nick Saban left. Julian Sayin decided to leave, wanted to come to Ohio State, and they made it happen. I mean, the quarterback room now is just crazy, and I want to talk about that kind of as the last topic here in a minute. What I expect to see out of the quarterback room for 24 and going forward. But before I do that, I do want to talk about the last thing that happened here. Actually, listen, I didn't give Julian Sayin enough credit here. If you guys didn't, go check out his like highlights and stuff on YouTube. This kid has tons of potential. I mean, he is super accurate with the ball, his pocket awareness. I mean, his moxie, his like attitude. I love everything that he brings to the team. And within the next couple years, maybe next year, there's a chance that he could take over a starting spot on this team. I mean, obviously, I don't think that he will have an impact on the 24 team unless like some injuries happen or something like that. But I expect him to kind of be that third string guy. Maybe end up being second string late in the year if someone transfers after the quarterback battle, the initial quarterback battle. But keep your eye on him. And I mean, honestly, he's either gonna be really good or he's gonna make Aaron Noland that much better. Because I like both of them. I like their potential and what they do. So I don't know, man. Keep a lookout for that kid. Anyway, moving on from that, the last kind of thing on the timeline that's happened recently, Ohio State gets a commitment from four-star offensive tackle Carter Lowe. This was a big-time pickup in my opinion. It's for the 25 class, so not an immediate impact guy. Obviously, offensive line, typically not immediate impact in their first year coming here. But Ohio State needed to start building up this room, and this I think is the perfect guy to do it because even though he's from Ohio, I think this is a national recruit. I think this kid had offers from Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, all the best teams in college football, and Ohio State and Justin Fry was able to win out and get him committed to Ohio State. So just more good news on top of more good news. Hopefully it continues to come. As Ohio State fans, I feel like we're not ready to secede now and be like, okay, it's the off season. There's not going to be news coming all the time. But I mean, listen, I don't think you could have asked for a better. I shouldn't say that. Obviously, things could get better. Maybe we could get a guy like Keon Keeley to leave Alabama and come to Ohio State, do a little tampering. But anyway, I don't think you could ask for too much better of a start to the offseason than what Ohio State's had. They just need to put this all together, man. Ryan Day needs to put all of this together and make this team into a championship team in 2024. So I definitely need to see that from him. My guy Cam says we need to get Spaces started up again. So listen, if anybody who's watching has a Twitter, you can find me on there, CFB_stop. I actually usually do run Spaces. I just kind of started recently, and I'm gonna do one probably after the show here. So whenever I finish up, give me a couple minutes, and I'll go ahead and run a space on Twitter, and we can chop it up in there. Maybe I'll get some of my guys in there that have some information. Maybe they'll drop some nuggets. Maybe not. We'll see. But anyway, let's move on. The last thing I want to talk about here before I get going is this Ohio State quarterback battle. So this is something that it's a touchy subject. You see my guy Chris Drew in the chat. I was actually watching him stream last night on Twitch. So check that out. Menace to Sports on Twitch too. Chris has been doing his thing over there. But we were kind of chatting back and forth about the quarterback situation. And the question to the chat is, can Devin Brown win the quarterback battle? Is that even an option, right? The question is not, do you think Devin Brown will win the battle? That's two different conversations that I don't care how you feel about that, honestly. Like, you probably don't care about how I feel about that, right? Because we don't have enough on film to say that Devin Brown is good enough to play at Ohio State. But the question is it going to be a legitimate quarterback battle? And to me, my answer is yes. I think that it is going to be a legitimate quarterback battle for multiple reasons, right? I think that one, Ryan Day cannot do what he did last year. He's a changed man. He's showing he's a changed man. He cannot go into this season and be like, well, I'm going to let anything other than this is the best quarterback that's going to win me a national championship decide who the quarterback is. I don't care if it's money, outside influence, coaches. Listen, Ryan Day is the head coach. He needs to, excuse me. Ryan Day is the head coach. He needs to make that decision, and he needs to make the right decision. And it needs to be because of a quarterback battle, and you were physically able to see who the best one was. So that's the first reason. The second reason is Bill O'Brien. I don't think that Bill O'Brien came to Ohio State to let Ryan Day play politics. I don't think that that's what he was trying to do. I think that he came to Ohio State to say, look, we're going to make this team the best team that we possibly can. And I don't think that Bill O'Brien would, I don't think that he would allow Ryan Day to kind of do some dumb shit like he did last year. I think that he would be in his face. And even if he's the head coach, he would be like, look, no, dude, this is not what's happening. We're going to play the better quarterback because we're trying to win. I don't give a fuck about all the other stuff that's happening. So that's two reasons. And then the third reason to me is I don't think that Will Howard is a quarterback that you do that with. Will Howard is a guy who he said it himself in his interview recently that he only was the true starter at Kansas State for 1 year. So he's a guy who's been in college for 4 years at Kansas State and was only the true starter for 1 year. And I don't know what year he was talking about, but I know that in 2023 they were rotating that other quarterback they have, Avery Johnson, in with him. So listen, if you had Justin Fields coming into the program, I would be like, okay, somebody's just got to transfer out. We got to figure out who the backup quarterback's going to be. But that's not what we have with Will Howard, and he could be that good. I don't know. Maybe he will be. He said that he wants to showcase his ability to be a pocket passer while still being able to use his legs. And I said in the beginning of the show, I love Will Howard. I love the attitude, the experience. I love what he brings. I think he's super talented. Listen, I have no problem with Will Howard. The thing is that he didn't do anything at Kansas State that tells me, okay, you're going to come to Ohio State and you're just going to take this thing by the horns and, fuck everybody else in our quarterback room. They just got to go. If that's what he does, then great. I hope he does that. I honestly hope he does. I hope he wins the Heisman. Cool. But if you are someone in that Ohio State quarterback room, a coach, a player, whatever, you cannot go into this season already at this point saying, okay, this is our starting quarterback. No, that cannot happen. Because if it does, then we are at risk of another year like last year where the quarterback is let me put it this way. We're at risk of the team having a bad attitude. And if you don't think that happened last year, go back and watch the games. A Michigan fan just posted yesterday on Twitter. He said, fuck it. The whole Ohio State Michigan game from 2023. And, I'm such a football fan that, and I don't care, I get it, Ohio State lost. A lot of people don't go back and rewatch. I rewatched the first half of it, and as I was just sitting there, the first thing that I noticed is the first drive of the game, third down, Kyle McCord throws the ball behind Emeka. Emeka doesn't catch it. He could have, but the bottom line is that the ball was thrown poorly. So that's the first thing. Emeka looked frustrated. And then the second drive of the game, Marv's wide open, and Kyle throws the ball like not even within 5 yards of him. And if you look at Marv's body language, he looked like he lost the game already. If you guys don't believe me, go watch the second drive of the game. I promise you. It's the second drive of the game on first down. I think it might not be on first down. But anyway, second drive of the game, that happens. And then not shortly after that, Kyle McCord, I think maybe the very next drive of the game, throws an interception where Marv, his body language was not great. He didn't run through his route as good as he should have, didn't have as much effort as he should have. But there's a reason for that stuff. Like, I know as a football player, as a fan, you're like, everybody needs to give ultimate effort all the time. But if you're an athlete, and believe it or not, I was an athlete in high school. I played baseball, I played football, but um anyway, like, it's hard to keep a good attitude if you feel like something outside of I didn't prepare hard enough is causing your team to not be able to win, or not, cuz people care about winning. And honestly, I think that the quarterback situation from last year had a bigger impact on the team and the attitude and the effort than a lot of people want to admit. Like I said, go back and watch it yourself. I think it's on. It might be on YouTube, whatever. Like Big Ten Network in 60 game. So like I said, bad throw by McCord on the second drive of the game. Marv looks kind of checked out. Very next drive, Marv looks checked out, and basically the pick six happens that pretty much costed Ohio State the game. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't think that the team thought that Kyle McCord was the best option to win the game, or to win, or to basically to take that team to where they wanted to go. And maybe if some of the players heard me say that, they might be pissed and be like, "Man, come on, that's not how we feel about our guy. Kyle's our guy." But some things you can't control, some like your facial expressions, stuff like that, your body language. I mean, you can control it, but guys don't control it, and their body language and stuff was terrible. And I mean, we can't have that again this year, right? Like, we simply can't. This team has everybody back. Everybody on this team needs to be fired up, fully confident in all of their brothers that they're ready to go out and beat Michigan and win a national championship. So, to me, the way that this quarterback competition is handled is going to determine where this team goes in 2024. Not who wins the battle, not what quarterback stays or goes. I don't care about that. But that quarterback battle needs to embody what Ohio State should embody as a program, which is competition, 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 and iron sharpens iron. So, all right. Anyway, I wanted to get into that because it's kind of a topic that I feel kind of passionate about. I think that Ohio State needs to do what is best for Ohio State, and I expect Ryan Day to do that, especially the way that he's been moving recently. So, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up here, guys. I do got some other things I got to do today. I appreciate you guys for coming. I think this was my most kind of popping show in the chat, and people in here, so I appreciate that. Thanks all you guys for coming. Cam, Dongzilla, Mike, Chris Drew, all the fellas, anybody who's in listeners. But listen, I'm going to try to go live every day as long as I'm able to. I appreciate everything. Like I said, hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But peace out, guys. Y'all have a great day, and keep it moving, man.